I do cybersecurity because I can't sing and dance. So many devices are connected always on to the internet. And that is where the security comes into play, that how can you stay protected while always connected? That's what attackers do. Once they are inside, they sit inside the network and keep watching and slowly take the data out using these kind of accounts. Copilot for 365 will go and look at all level of data within the company. It has access like a superpower. This simple meta class asked me what all you want to give permission. There's a new technology called dishing, which is using the deep fake audio video for luring somebody in the social media attack. Hackers have been collecting all the compromised password encryption keys for many years. They have been storing that and collecting and waiting for the right technology to come in place, such as quantum, which could help them break those keys within minutes. So that's very scaring me as well.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dumb Ways to Get Hacked. Today, I've got a very special guest with me, someone who's very well known in the cyber community. Welcome to the show, Abbas. For those who may not know you, tell us a bit about yourself and the journey to becoming the leading voice in cybersecurity.
I don't know about the leading voice, but definitely I have a voice. So thanks, Bora. Thanks for having me today on your show. My name is Abbas Kudrati. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. I am the Chief Identity Security Advisor for a company called Silverfort. They are specialized in identity security. I joined them around a month back, but prior to that, I used to be a Chief Cybersecurity Advisor for Microsoft Asia for almost close to 7 years. And prior to that, I used to be a Chief Information Security of KPMG Australia New Zealand and many other companies. So thanks for having me. Let's have a good conversation today.
I'd like to start by asking, why cybersecurity, Abbas? Like, what drew you to this field and what continues to fascinate you about it?
I always love this question. And when I hear this, the one dialogue comes in my mind is from Rocky Balboa. I do cybersecurity because I can't sing and dance.
That's
Uh,
fantastic.
honestly, IT or I started my career many, many years back, almost 27 years back. At that time, there was no cybersecurity. It was only IT. And you're working with dumb machines and without network. And then the networking came into place. So my first job was to connect the networks. So I was a novel network engineer and then get into a Microsoft network engineer or a system administrator. And from there, I grew up in a variety of different roles from IT to network, from network to system administration, and then to network security, and from network security to governance, risk and compliance, and ethical hacking. And became on the management side, became a CISO. And when the cloud came, I moved my journey to the cloud. And that's where the cybersecurity came into place. I had a huge spectrum of experience all the way from AS400 mainframe to now what we work on cool technologies such as AI and things like that. So yeah,
Oh,
very
I, I
passionate
could
on what I do.
I can 100% relate to that. I think we used to call it sneaker networking from memory, where we
Yes.
were the network. We had to grab information from one computer, run it to the other. And then, there was coax, which led to the CAD cables and the growth of technology. I think we're showing our age here, Abbas.
Absolutely.
What are some common misconceptions about cybersecurity that you can debunk right now?
Yeah. So one thing I didn't mention that apart from working in Silverford and working for Microsoft in past, I am also a professor. So I teach masters in cybersecurity in La Trobe University as a guest lecturer and as a professor of practice. And I also write books on being an author and written multiple books on various topics. And always students ask me a question, how is cybersecurity different than security? And I always give a distinct feature or an answer to them that it's all about IT security, which then became an information security, and then came a cyber. So cyber is a subset of a larger realm of information security. And I have a very cool definition to explain any layman who asks me what is cybersecurity. I tell them cybersecurity definition is stay protected while connected. Period. One line. Stay protected while connected. It is what about so many devices are connected always on to the internet. And that is where the security comes into play, that how can you stay protected while always connected? So that's a cyber security, but bigger picture is the information security, which covers all the areas of security, including your verbal communication, your paper documentation, your file which you have saved, hard copy. It was the physical security and a human security as well. So you have to understand the difference of that.
That, my friend, is probably the best explanation I've heard about cybersecurity, and I will definitely use that line myself.
Stay
Stay protected
protected.
while
Yes,
connected.
yes.
That's a good one.
Anyone will get
I
it.
love it. I love it. I think we're going to have to run a professor session with you on our podcast. So let's dive into our specific topic today, which is service accounts. But look, before we dig into it, for those who are unfamiliar, can you explain what a service accounts are and why they are essential in today's interconnected world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go one step back in explaining what is a service account. All right. The first part is you need to understand within the identity and access management, you always focus on human identities, which is me and you. We have the username, password, we have a role access, we are part of a certain group, and we try to protect that. One element which is gaining a huge focus in the coming years is a non-human identity. Non-human identity is a very bigger picture. Within the non-human identity, you have multiple sets of non-human identity, which includes service account, your machine identity, your application identity, and many more. So service account are specifically within the non-human identity realm is when you have an identity or an ID created for between two applications. So you have multiple applications within your company, and they need to communicate among each other without any human intervention. So there is an account which created when you call a particular service or using an API, service account's username password is used to call that. Now the challenge with that with service account is you need to understand the difference, and I'll go a little bit extra on that. Interactive service account in which you can use that service account to log in on the system just like a human account. You have a bora.whatever at whatever.com. You can log in. So people, you should never you should never have an interactive service account unless there is a pressing need. Normally, service accounts are non-interactive account. That means you cannot log in using that account in your Windows network or whatever. That's the one thing. Second thing, these are account created for longer duration of the time. Somebody creates it and then they always forget. Their password are complex and we never change the password of service account because if you try to change it, it will break up certain application. To give you an example of when I used to be a CISO for one of the organization, globally, our global CISO decided to, because of the regulatory requirement, they decided that we need to change the password for all service account from 8 character to 15 character. This I'm talking about 9 years or 8 years back. So one first task given to me was, or I decided to do it. I don't even know how many service account I have. We had a 15,000 employee, but when I tried to look around in the Active Directory and see how many service accounts we have, I found 1,800 service accounts.
Wow.
And when I asked around who owns it, nobody had an idea. I said, I don't know. I'm new here, or the person who created is not available. And what is it used for? Nobody knows what this service account is used for, which application. Because it was a compliance requirement, I had to change the password. And to change the password, we had to open a change ticket in our change board, account board. And every weekend, we used to change 50 passwords of service account. And we used to pray the God, okay, hope that nothing breaks down. Otherwise, our weekend is gone to revert the change. And we don't know what old password was because you can't see the password directly. We changed one password on the first day after a 30th or 40th password. Two of our UPS in Sydney office shut down. And we had to recreate and go reverse engineering to create another account to make sure UPS were connected and work out. So that's the problem we are dealing in, and that's what attackers are targeting. Attackers know that human accounts or have a MFA, multi-factor authentication, which they can protect it. How do you do MFA on service account? So
Yeah.
that is what the concern today in identity world. And one of the reason I'm focusing a lot on identity security is we need to focus on non-human identity, including service accounts and machine ID, and make sure we have the control in place for the visibility. What do I have? Accountability, who owns that account, and security, how do you secure this service account only with the right control in place? And we can go technically later on, but there are many solutions, including the company I work for in Singapore as well. That's a long answer
Um,
for your education answer for your service account.
that is a very good explanation. It makes so much more sense. I mean, I understand where you're coming from because the reality, even in a small or not even in an enterprise environment, is you've got your printer, and that printer needs to connect and send emails out to your users or your customers,
Yes.
and no one wants to sign in with their own account. So you've created a specific account just for that printer. Now, that account has by default got access to your Microsoft. Well, I'm going to use the example of Microsoft 365. So I've
Yeah.
got a Microsoft 365 environment. I've set up a user just for the purpose to send emails out. And
Yes.
because some of these older printers, which or devices don't have the authentication method enabled and they're limited, it means that that account is theoretically username password only, as you said. So therefore, if someone targets that, then that account is very easily compromisable. And it's something we face every single day in our security. But I guess, from the end user's perspective, it's convenient. They rock up to the printer, they push a button, and it goes. They don't want to put in passwords every time that they try to sign in and send something to a client. And we're living in a digital age, and we're asking these people to scan documents to keep things more digital so we can protect them a little bit differently. But we're limited by all these capabilities. So I guess what is the biggest security challenge associated with service accounts, and how can we mitigate these risks effectively?
Well, it takes all three area of your technology: people, process, and technology. All three of them. People point of view, of course, we need to be aware about understanding who has access to what, who owns the service account, assigning accountability on that. Process in terms of how do you manage the life cycle of non-human identity, including service account. You create, you maintain, you use it, and purge or delete it. So that life cycle has to be there. There are many artifacts on that. The main part comes into a technology space. What technology do you have today to making sure you have the full visibility of all the service accounts within your environment, and you can create a mapping in terms of who owns it, when was this service account last used, and for what purpose, and do you still need it? So there are technologies in place. Again, going back to the Silver Fort, they have a very excellent unified security platform which can mitigate and identify. First part is they do the visibility. You can see everything in your environment, all kind of identity, human, non-human. So they go deep from on-premises identity to cloud identity to non-human identity to human identity. Once you have the visibility, you can then see how are they interacting it and what they're interacting with. You can assign the accountability. Okay, this person owns it, but this person is not here in the company anymore. Can we reassign this account to somebody else? When was it last accessed and for what? Is there an anomaly in that? Is it supposed to access this, or maybe it is controlled by an attacker who has been inside your network for months? That's what attackers do. Once they are inside, they sit inside the network and keep watching and slowly take the data out using these kind of accounts. So you will find that anomaly once you have that kind of a technology in place to look at what's happening behind the scene. And then you start, once you have the technology, it becomes a part of your daily operational duty. That, okay, we have it, what's happening in that, who's on it, do I need it, not to own it, remove it, and do I need to change the password, or there is a way of doing it, especially when it comes to the privilege account, not focusing on identity or service account as such. There are mechanisms or a way where you don't even have to change the password. The old way of doing the privilege access management, where every time a person takes the password from your PAM solution, they have to change the password, right? Now you can simply disable the account in your identity access management or identity provider. It could be Microsoft, Okta, Ping, or SailPoint, whatever. And the person who is requesting the password doesn't need to know the password. The account is disabled. You request just in time or just enough access. You get your job done. You get the communication done. Your work is done. Automatically, the account is again disabled. So password is never exposed, and you never need to rotate the password as well. That's a separate technology, but let's focus on service account. On people process technology is very, very important in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me what you're what you're actually saying is that there's multiple parts to this. One being as a business owner, again, it doesn't matter what level of business you're at, you need to have visibility and at least an idea of what accounts are there. You don't need to be technical. You just need to understand, if I want to send something to someone, my printer needs this account. If I want to use this technology, I need to create a specific account because I don't want my end user privileged accounts to access this. Then you've got the technology part to it where to get to the level of what you're saying, I guess you need certain skill sets. If I was just an average IT service or managed
Mhm.
provider, I would need to keep a list of these accounts, what they're used for, and then how we can protect them by putting and implementing the technologies that you're talking about. And then as a business, from outside the business perspective, if you were an auditor, if I had got you to, as you just suggested earlier, if I had hired you to come in without any of that, you're going to fail. I'm going to fail the audit pretty badly, because at the end of the day, you're going to ask me, well, I've detected 1,800 service accounts. I can only account for three of them. I'm not sure why you've got so many other accounts, and here are the risks
Exactly.
for having these accounts, right? So there are multiple aspects to all of this, but to keep it simple, should businesses only use service accounts where it's needed, keep information about these accounts, and disable them when they're not using it? What's the advice you're giving here?
Yeah. So one thing I think I covered, but if not, then it's about the behavior, right? The
Mhm.
service account have a set behavior when they are in use, and normally you won't be able to pick up that behavior unless you have an advanced technology or a technology or identity solution, security solution, which can detect that behavior. If a human is logging using the service account, that behavior is easily being flagged and being alerted in your security operations center or within your platform of identity security, which you are using it, right?
Yep.
If not, then you know that it's a set behavior. You can simply monitor what's happening and take a preventive and detective action on what is required on that side. So absolutely on that.
That makes sense. So, how has the rise of cloud computing and technologies like AI impacted the way we manage these service accounts?
Yeah, service account is one part of it. Cloud and AI and absolutely because look at the amount of generative AI and AI-based applications right now being available on the internet. Every company, if you look at it, they are using at least 5, 10, 20 different kind of AI tool. And every time you use this kind of technology, we call it bot ID. It creates number of identities within that solution as well. And those are non-human identities or machine identity, not even service account. Service account are more from the application to application point of view. But cloud and especially on the AI side of it, they create a lot of these bot identities, which also needs to be managed. Because imagine, give you a simple example, if you implement M365 Copilot, for example, right? It would have if you haven't done the right permission management within your company, right? Identity access management, provide access control of all the data. Copilot for 365 will go and look at all level of data within the company. It has access like a superpower, super god, or a super admin kind of power. It can read all the data in that because that's a job of an AI to learn from the data, and so you can ask the prompt, it gives you a response. Now, imagine if that dealing with these kind of plethora of bot identities or Gen AI or AI identities which are being created by this AI-based application, that needs to be also managed in an effective way or in an efficient way using this kind of technology, which could give you a full visibility what the identities are, what data it is accessing, do I need to control them, and have a visibility on that side as well.
So, again, just to re emphasize what you're saying, as the final advice on this is, you should absolutely have an idea of what you're using as a service account in your business. Make sure they're all accounted for. Make sure that they have the right security around them. So if all they need is permission to do one specific task, that's all they got permission for. And if you're implementing technologies such as Copilot or AI, which is, let's face it, the number one thing at the moment, and every day there's new things, to actually set the rules and policies around that. And every technology, whether it be Microsoft, Google, Gemini, whether it be Meta, will have or should have the ability to create these policies so that you can actually restrict it. Because as you said, the last thing you want is a staff member um, going on and asking for a bit of financial information for a client, but suddenly it's seeing information about another worker's pay because it's somehow got confused and given the wrong information. And then if someone's cluey enough, I guess then they can start asking the right questions. Did I miss anything?
No, not really. You covered it well. And since you're talking about the meta and AI, I thought I'll wear my meta glasses. This simple meta glass, it has an AI meta engine. And
Yep.
when I created this particular account, immediately it asked me what all app you want to give permission. I can connect my Instagram, I can connect my Facebook, I can connect my WhatsApp. So one simple device, three application connected using that, including Facebook and all. So three different identities are created using a simple bot. And imagine this is just a simple device or wearable device. If you have a business application of AI based, how many such access it will require on that side?
And I'm guessing the risk to that isn't just worrying about the compromise. The other part of that risk is Meta have asked you for permissions, and they will use some of that information to train or to sell on to someone else. So, you're risking your client information or your personal information by giving these permissions. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Got it. Back again,
Yeah.
Ermaine.
So let's close this on where do you see the future of cybersecurity heading, and what are the biggest threats and opportunities on the horizon?
See, number one threat, what we see today is identity-based attacks are increased almost 300%. And that is why identity security is becoming very important. And we call it every company is an IAM company. and every company is an identity or IAM company. And identity becomes a new perimeter or the new firewall. So threats like SIM jacking, password spray, brute force attack, deep fake, they're also using your identity in a way. Well, smishing, phishing, and dishing. There's a new terminology. Our CISO of Silverfort, John Cunningham, he came up with a new word called dishing, which is using the deep fake audio video for luring somebody in a social media attack. So these kind of attacks are going to continuously rise and going to increase. And that is why identity security has to be in one of your core pillar within your cybersecurity strategy as well. So that's from the threat point of view. Otherwise, the technology point of view, we are going to see a lot of uptake on Gen AI or AI-based thing. Everyone is talking about it. But my take on that is don't get carried away or don't feel that don't feel effect of a FOMO of missing out, fear of missing out, because everyone talks about AI doesn't mean that you also need to jump on the bandwagon of Gen AI or AI in your company. You need to have a foundation layer of security defined and implemented in your company. If you haven't done the data classification right in your company, if you haven't done the role-based access control or identity access management define who has access to what data, your AI project is going to fail miserably because as I was giving example, AI will go and read and learn everything from your data. So data governance becomes a number one challenge for security decision makers and the CISO when it comes to the AI part of it. So make sure you tackle that first before even you jump on the bandwagon. Third one is I will talk about. There are many more, but third one is where we are going seeing more and more discussion happening about is a post quantum services, quantum computing, because it is going to make a hacker's life easy. And to give you one simple story and an example on that, hackers have been collecting all the compromised password encryption keys for many years, and they're storing it. Storage is cheap. You can have a USB stick of a 2 terabyte and keep the data in that. And in 2 terabyte, you can save thousands and millions of identity and certificate key. They have been storing that and collecting that for many years and waiting for the right time, for the right technology to come in place, such as quantum, which could help them break those keys within minutes. 5 years back, it was very hard for breaking them. It takes years for breaking them. But today, with quantum, they will be able to crack those keys which they have stored with them for many years within minutes. And imagine these kind of certification and API keys are long-term, or we call it euphorial identities. They don't change that often. Example of service account. That's one example, right? If they have the hash value of these kind of accounts and identities and certification, they will be able to crack using quantum and they will target you. So they're very research-based things. So that's very scaring me as well. Okay, quantum has a both side of it. Attackers will take a upper advantage of that, but we need to be prepared as a defender. How can we use these post-computing services and technology to defend ourselves from getting attacked by this attackers who are going to leverage this technology. So quantum and AI and identity, I think these are the top three nightmares I have these days.
100%. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Let's hope Microsoft's new AI chip that they just released
Yes, I was
the
looking
other
at
day will be Microsoft will use to learn from that and to be able to put it into the right use and control how it's used as well. Because as you suggested, the biggest hack that concerns me would be LastPass, which is a password manager for those who don't know. And a password manager is effectively a system where you put your passwords into and it creates passwords for you and makes your life significantly easier. And by default, it's a very secure way to manage because it's encrypted. However, now they are becoming the target, meaning that those companies get their systems compromised. People steal those databases. And as Abbas just mentioned, right now, that's no threat because it might take 60 years for that password to be compromised. However, once the technology gets to the point in the next few years, especially with the use of AI and various other technologies, they will be able to break those. And again, the biggest risk is if you've been compromised, and you can use sites like Have I Been Pawned and many other sites to see whether your name is showing up on the dark web, or ask your IT provider to help you with that. Uh, change your password, and to all these accounts that you believe may be compromisable or has been compromised, and if enable two-factor authentication, make sure you've got backup of all your information and protect yourself. As you said, while you are connected, how do I stay protected? Which is
you
a
got it
fantastic
right.
term. See, there you go. First student off the ranks. Yay.
Yes.
Abbas, I want to say thank you, because not just for giving such amazing advice today, but for the fact that you are a professor, you're helping the young generation to understand in the ways that will help them develop. You're helping the community by putting out so much information online. You're working with the big companies to hopefully keep them in line and give them the best advice to do the right thing by people. Yeah, so big thank you from us at Dumb Ways to Get Hacked. And any last things you'd like to say?
Don't get into a dumb way to get hacked. I was getting it right, but absolutely be vigilant. Understand the threat and opportunity of every new technology which are being coming up, including your Gen AI, including the quantum. So keep studying, keep yourself up to date, read, and attend these kind of forums. So this is where myself and Bora come into the play, where we are keeping ourselves up to date, and this is how we give back to the community so that you are being aware. So don't fast forward this particular podcast. Make sure you listen. There are lots of interesting nuggets of wisdom we have together for all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Varun.